Hi everyone, and welcome to day 1 of prenatal pelvic floor lengthening. Today we are going to be focusing on the foundations of pelvic floor lengthening, mainly some pelvic floor breathing. For today, you will need something cozy to sit on, if you would so choose, a mat, and a band. So, this is your pelvic floor. It, together with your diaphragm, works together like a piston. So when one moves up, the other moves up, and when one moves down, the other moves down. This is really important in terms of our pelvic floor health because it helps promote a relaxation of tone, or it helps us relax our pelvic floor because we can actually move it around. I'm going to explain this pelvic floor breathing to everybody today, and then we're going to go through a few positions and a few stretches, and we'll try and integrate this breathing into the stretches to understand kind of the mechanics of it a little bit better. So let's jump right into an explanation. Like I said before, our pelvic floor and our diaphragm work together like a piston. So when one moves up, the other moves up, and when one moves down, the other moves down. This helps us create core control. It helps us with our pelvic floor strength, and like I said before, with our mobility. So when we take a nice deep breath in, our diaphragm has to move down to allow new air to enter into our lungs. And because of that piston action, at the same time, our pelvic floor also goes down. So when we breathe in, our pelvic floor lengthens and relaxes. On the other hand, when we breathe out, our diaphragm comes up to help us push that old air out of our lungs. And at the same time, our pelvic floor also comes up. So I want you to picture a trampoline with netting and a spring. When we breathe in, our pelvic floor lengthens, just like the trampoline's netting would if you were making contact with it and it's dropping down to the ground. So it's kind of creating this bowl. When we breathe out, on the other hand, that netting springs back up. So we've lost contact with the trampoline, the netting comes back to neutral. We are going to be practicing the breath in and the relaxation piece today because that is what's going to help with mobility in terms of pregnancy and in terms of just kind of trying to help everything move the way that it should. So we're going to put our pelvis away and we are going to practice trying to integrate this mechanics into our breath. So we're going to go through some cues together to try and help us activate this kind of pattern. So the first thing that I want you to do is when you breathe in, I want you to picture as if your pelvic floor is the petals of a flower and you're trying to open up the petals of the flower on the breath in. So let's do a few breaths there. So breathe in and out. Good. We're going to do 5 of these. One more here. Good. So what you should be feeling is a gentle relaxation in the pelvic floor or kind of an opening. It won't be moving by feet. It won't be moving a ton, but it is just a way to try and kind of help open up that pelvic floor. Good. So now if that cue didn't work for you, that's okay. If you feel like you don't really know what you're doing, let's move on to another one. Maybe that one will work better for you. So this next cue is I want you to pretend as if when you breathe in, you're releasing the flow of urine. So you're pretending like you're letting yourself go to the bathroom. I promise you, you won't actually go to the bathroom. So let's take a few breaths there, thinking about releasing the flow of urine on a breath in. Good. One more. Good. Let's do a few more here for everybody who this cue resonates with. And again, pick the cue that you feel the best response to. Okay, and the last cue that we're going to try in order to get this pattern down is using our hips. So I want you to pretend as if when you breathe in, this hip bone is going this way and this hip bone is going that way. So you're thinking about creating space in your pelvis and like your hips are almost floating apart when you do a breath. So let's do a few of those. I like to touch my hips when I do it this way. Good job, everyone. So you're going to feel a little bit of a length kind of this way and hopefully a relaxation down. And the reason why I'm sitting kind of on a poof right now is because that also helps with some feedback. So breathing into an object is also kind of helpful because you might feel a tiny bit of pressure downwards, and that's exactly what we're looking for. Good. So now let's try integrating this into a few other ways of breathing in order to keep solidifying this pattern. The next breathing technique that we're going to try and kind of integrate this with is called umbrella breathing. So I want you to pretend as if your entire torso, your entire rib cage is one big umbrella, and the top of the umbrella is right here. And so when you breathe in, you're trying to expand this way, and this way, and this way, and to the back, and to the side, etc. But you're going to keep trying to think about that opening and lengthening when you breathe in. So you're going to take your hands just here, and you're going to think about breathing into that umbrella. So you're kind of breathing outwards and up and out. Good. Good job, everybody. Let's do a few more here. Okay. So we're going to practice that breathing with a band now, just so that we can solidify that pattern. Maybe it's not very intuitive to you to not breathe into an object, so we're going to make it a little easier. You're going to take the band and you're going to wrap it around your rib cage, and you're going to try and breathe into the band. So you're breathing out to the side and to the back and to the front. So that's kind of what this breathing looks like. We're not moving by feet. We're not moving by meters. It's not the biggest excursion, but it is still moving into the band. So let's do a few there together. And you're focusing also on lengthening that pelvic floor at the same time. We're opening that umbrella. Good job, everybody. One more. Good. I'm going to put the band away. So hopefully that is enough of an arsenal for you to have chosen one or two cues that kind of work for you with this breathing technique. So let's try and integrate this breathing technique into some functional movement. We're going to get onto our hands and knees, and we're going to try a cat-cow position, stacking this breath into this position. So you're going to get onto hands and knees like you're going to crawl, and you're going to have your knees stacked under your hips and your hands stacked under your shoulders. And then we are going to be moving our low back, our tailbone, and our pelvis with this movement. So it's a range of motion exercise for our lumbar or our lower spine. And the first position we're going to do is called a cow position. So we're tilting everything up. And then the second position that we're going to do is called a cat position. So we're curling everything up and in. So with these two positions, we are going to be breathing throughout the motion. When we breathe in, we're going to be moving into cow, we're lengthening. And then when we breathe out, we're going into cat, like this. So we're going to do 5 in each direction, and I'm going to cue when we're going to breathe in and when we're going to breathe out, because I know it's a bit of a tricky pattern. There's a lot going on here, but this is going to help us mobilize and lengthen through the pelvic floor. So we're going to breathe in and out. Good job, everyone. Curl everything up and in, and then we're going to lengthen everything. Breathe in and out. Good. This might feel good on your stiff low back right now with pregnancy. Might be a nice stretch for your belly. Breathe in here and breathe out. And in and out. We're going to do one more in each direction, thinking about breathing in and lengthening and curling up and under and breathing out. Good job, everybody. So when we're here, this is a good place to just practice that pelvic floor breathing in 4-point because it's a really nice way to prepare for labor as well. So you can be here and practice that breathing technique and reflect upon, can I lengthen my pelvic floor here? Is this easy for me to do? If it is, maybe it's something that you kind of bring up with your midwife or with your OBGYN, and you can talk to them about potentially either laboring or delivering in this position. It's kind of gone are the days in the hospital where you have to deliver on your back. So it's always nice to try and experiment with different positions. That being said, let's get into one more position here that can potentially be a good position to labor in or even deliver in, depending on if you have a midwife or an OBGYN, or if you're delivering in a hospital or at home or what have you. Second position that we're going to try doing is a pelvic floor squat. So you're going to be in a deep squat just like this, trying to open up through pelvic floor here. So hands can come to the sides like this, and we're trying to really breathe into pelvic floor. So we're going to do about 5 breaths in this position. I'm going to put my hands down on the ground. You can keep them up, depends on how you want to do it. If you want to open up for an extra little stretch like this, if that's still accessible to you, or if your belly's in the way, you can kind of sit a little bit higher like this, and we're going to breathe into the pelvic floor here. So breathe in, open, relax, breathe out. Good job. 4 more here. Good. 3 more. Good. Thinking about expanding, opening up through that pelvic floor. Good job, everybody. We're going to do one last one. Awesome. Alrighty. Now we're going to come back down onto the ground, and we're going to do one more position together. And this position is also going to help open up and lengthen the pelvic floor, but it's a position that might be a little bit more expected of you to labor in. So we're going to get onto our backs, just like this. And then settle in for a second. Let your pelvis be a little bit heavy in this position. And then if you feel up to it, you're going to bring your legs up into a tabletop position. You're going to grab the inside of your feet with both hands, 1 and 2. And then you're going to try and open up through the pelvic floor, lengthening up, straightening out the legs, keeping the arms nice and soft, kind of dropping everything down into the ground. And you're going to breathe into this position, trying to keep the pelvic floor nice and open. So let's do 5 breaths together here. Good. And if this feels like too big of a stretch, or let's say you can't reach, you can always try and use a band and loop around the legs if you don't have this range of motion accessible to you. Maybe your belly's getting a little bit too big for you to do this comfortably. You can make it work with some modifications in that way. 2 more here. And last one. Good. And then slowly bring those legs back in and drop them down to the ground. So practicing breathing in that way is also a great way to prepare for labor. It's a great way to open up the pelvic floor and kind of integrate this pattern into some functional positions. That's all for day 1. We'll see you on day 2.